College ball had a phenomenal weekend. Now, what do we need to pay attention to? There's 130-some teams. There's a bunch of different conferences. There's a lot of different squads that could go and could not go. There's undefeated teams. Well, we broke it down to about 6 storylines. Let's do some college ball combos with Tone Diggs, who has an AP vote in the NFL and is a published author around college football.
Hell yeah.
Yes, I am. I haven't been recognized nationally in the collegiate level yet, but we're working on it. Okay, it's something we're going to work on.
It's coming.
It's coming.
You sell a couple thousand books, all of a sudden things start happening.
But yeah, as you see, Georgia is very much still Georgia. Week 1, they won by 30. Week 2, they won by 40. Okay, so they're doing pretty well. And yeah, the opponent in week 2 wasn't as good, but Carson Beck still has 7 touchdowns on the season to his 0 interceptions. And the defense has given up a field goal in each game. ETN came back last week and looked unbelievable. So yeah, the Dogs are rolling down in Athens, and there is no stopping them.
Number 1 team in the country did not get a chance to defend their national championship last year. Kirby Smart, who is a motivator, we've heard his speeches get leaked from the locker room. The amount of times he has talked shit to this team for not being able to make the college football playoff last year with 4 teams while being the national champions. I assume he brought up how they ruined the legacy of the year before. And like, what is your legacy going to be in this entire thing? They have Bloody Tuesdays, right? Isn't that the thing? They are old school team that has a lot of spite and chips on their shoulder for how it went. Look out when that dog comes down the track.
Hell yeah.
I am worried that we're going to go to Georgia, and because what happened at the SEC championship, I'm not going to be able to watch that coming down the track. I don't know if they're going to.
They have to.
I don't know.
Don't
It's in their blood.
I hope they forget, because I'm picking them to win the national championship and the Alabama thing. They did win that game.
Right.
So sorry about Nostradamus, Pat, but I had to kind of do that entire thing. And you guys kicked me out of a restaurant last year because remember, I'm the one that decided David Pollock's no longer on there. I'm the one that is on there. So it was a nice little moment. I believe in the Dogs. I believe in Kirby Smart. They are very much still Georgia, which I think everybody needs to recognize.
Yep, Kirby is a master motivator, and they are still sitting at number 1. The new number 2, they jumped up to number 2, is Texas after their win on the road against a top 10 team in the Big House. Remember, this is the second year in a row that Texas has gone on the road in week 2 and won against a top 10 team. They did it against Bama yesterday. They made it to the semifinal last year. So could this be the year for Texas? Absolutely. Quinn Ewers, 3 touchdowns in each of his games. Guess who's the Heisman favorite now, too?
No way.
That would be Quinn Ewers is the Heisman favorite now, because he has been absolutely. He looks so good, and that's a good Michigan defense. Yeah, they lost a lot of people, but that is still a good Michigan defense there. And then on the defense side for them, they're only giving up 238 yards a game. Colorado State, they won 52-0, and then they didn't let up anything against this Michigan offense. Now a lot of people are saying this Michigan offense isn't the best Michigan offense of all time. Sure, but Texas has still looked really good, and now they are the number 2 team in the country.
Okay, I like this Texas team's moxie and swagger. I talked about this the other day. I was on their sideline, and obviously get to see Matthew McConaughey. I met the governor of Texas.
What?
I met the guy. I had no idea that was the governor. Good handshake, good conversation. Met some of their boosters. Got a chance to kind of see how Texas operates and how they travel. That entire team, a lot of moxie. Sidelines up. Sidelines watch. Look at that. Look at that sideline. I talked about this yesterday. Look at every single human on their team invested in every single snap. I mean, that tells you a lot about the squad. Tells you a lot about the team. Their first year in the SEC, a lot of high hopes, a lot of high expectations. But Sark has been building this team as an SEC team since he got there. Remember what he did at Alabama. Remember the success he's had in the past. The offense with Quinn Ewers is going to be good, but the defense flies around. I mean, they are, and they got swagger. And it's a full-on SEC team now. It looks like it. And they went into the Big House and handled business quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, I know it's a different year, and obviously they build. But last year we saw them boots on the ground go down to Bama and get that big win. You mentioned that was the week 2 game, right? And we mentioned it, and hearing Sark talk, may have been with you guys on game day, talking about how he wants to be a versatile team. You know, not only a team that can go out there and throw, for 400 yards and score 48 points, but also be physical and win those close, kind of bloody snot, but not the snot out your nose type of SEC games they're going to have to win. But yeah, Texas is all the way back.
Yeah, I think so. So Georgia's Georgia. Texas appears to be Texas. What else is popping off, Tone?
Yeah, Georgia's got to go to Austin in a few weeks, so that'll be interesting as well. Ohio State is an absolute wagon. Now they have dominated the MAC, but the MAC looked good this last week in Northern Illinois. Great performance, obviously. Bowling Green, a great performance against Penn State, but Ohio State has absolutely dominated the MAC. They've won 52-6 and 56-0, and in that pre-mentioned book that I wrote, I said they wouldn't give up a touchdown the first 5 weeks. They've gone through 2, no touchdowns given up, and the defense looks unbelievable on that side of the ball. Jeremiah Smith, That freshman right there, just stupid,
County,
just
baby.
stupid good. He's had over 100 yards a game. He's got 3 touchdowns on the season so far. They got their next great wide receiver in that situation, and then Judkins and Henderson, the 2 running backs, are both averaging over 7 yards a carry for Will Howard's offense. The Ohio State Buckeyes, sure they haven't played anybody, but they have looked really, really good so far.
Chip Kelly obviously coming over to be the offense coordinator. I think the last time Chip Kelly was just an offense coordinator, things went very well. He doesn't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah.
Just
Chip Kelly doesn't have to worry about fundraising, which was potentially a thing that was happening at UCLA. In Philadelphia, for the Eagles, didn't have to deal with professionals and agents and schedule and everything like that. When he was at Oregon, obviously, they had smashing success and went through there. Now he just has to worry about Will Howard in the offense.
Yep.
And he has 2 running backs that are first-team All-Pro if they wanted to be. He has a weapon in this freshman, Jeremiah Smith, he literally called his shot. My first touchdown is going to be in this corner right here. Him and his entire family was like, right here is where I'm going to score. And he did. And he scored another 2 touchdowns each week. He's a massive addition to that entire offense. You lose Marvin Harrison Jr., are you going to be able to still have the threat?
Yep.
Yes. You're going to be able to have the running backs? Okay. Still got the tight end who's a beast. And Will Howard is certainly an upgraded quarterback, even though McCord's doing his thing at Syracuse right now. It feels like this could be the year Ohio State's money is well spent. Not that they didn't spend money before. $20 million, though. And then you talk about the defense not giving up a touchdown. Caleb Downs, best player in the country, people are saying. He goes through the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I know Herb Street was trying to pump the brakes. They say they got the best team. Why? Because you bring in Will Howard, Judkins, and Caleb Downs. It's like, yeah, Herbie.
Well,
yeah, Herbie, that is.
And you return a lot.
Yeah, that is why we are saying
defense.
that is the case. They're all seemingly paying off, but once again, does not matter until the very end for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and that just kind of sucks for them.
And for them, it might not matter until week 6 when they go to Oregon, okay? And now Oregon is our next subject here. And Oregon, who I was talking about, and a lot of people were talking about, they were one of the national championship favorites. Now they won 24-14 as 50-point favorites in week 1, so they only won by 10 there. And then this last weekend against Boise, when they were 17-point favorites, they were, 34-27. And we were talking about fourth quarter, and Genti had 200 yards they were giving up on the ground. And then they get a huge kick return here to make it 34-34. And then there's a couple punts, and then they get a field goal on the very last possession, Oregon does. So Mike Tomlin said it this week. We are going to cure our ills off of a W, which you guys have talked about it before as players. Coaches love that, is getting better even after you win football games. They just haven't, the stats have been really good for Gabriel. They just haven't been able to get, huge chunk plays yet, obviously besides the kick return. But on offense, it just hasn't come together yet. Now they have time until Ohio State, but it just hasn't looked as people thought.
You get a dub, who cares? Is how they view it. Let's move along.
Yeah.
And this is so early in the season that it won't come to the conversation piece whenever it's a 12-team playoff. It's very similar to Alabama last year.
Yeah.
Alabama loses, obviously, to Texas. Then the USF game, they almost lose. They squeak by. Then Jalen Milroe gets in, and then they kind of hit it ground running. We assume the same thing's going to happen with Dan Lanning, this Oregon team. Dylan Gabriel's too talented. Defense flies around too much.
Yep.
This team is too good not to kind of go on a run. That's kind of how we all feel. That's why we're saying they need to figure it out. Oh, they're not going to figure it out.
Look, I trust Dan Lanning. He's a hell of a football
Boise's a good
coach.
team.
Yeah,
Obviously
Kirk has Boise the playoff.
So do I.
Boise State, you do too.
No,
Boise
they're a
is
good
great.
football team.
Good football team.
But you shouldn't be that close against
Yeah,
Oregon if you're going to win the national championship.
Oregon was in your top tier, correct?
Yes.
And then Herbie picked
They were in
them
everyone's
Natty.
top tier.
Boise State's going to be in playoff.
Boise
What are you
State
saying?
is a great football
What are we talking
team.
about?
A
What are we
great
saying?
I know,
Boise
but
State's a
national-
great football team.
Great football.
They gave
team.
up, they gave up 40 last week to Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern can score the football,
Yeah,
man.
they can spin it down there.
I'm worried about those Ducks.
All right. Don't be worried. They need to figure
In
it
the
out.
park.
They're-
And they're next.
yeah, we don't know anything about that. We're in a wild time to be alive.
Yes,
Back to
we are.
college ball.
You know
though.
you should worry about more than the Ducks? The Irish, okay? Because the Notre Dame Fighting Irish get knocked off by Northern Illinois, and boy, oh boy. Yeah, you can expect a letdown after being the game day game week 1 and looking good on the road against A&M. But normally when you get that letdown, you find a way to win, kind of like Penn State did against Bowling Green. Notre Dame did not find a way to win, and it's mostly because their offense stinks. Riley Leonard is averaging 160 yards a game through the air. He has 0 passing touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That's tough. I mean, the offense is just doing nothing, and the defense in this one just gave up big play after big play after big play. And now a lot of people in the college football world are saying, Notre Dame, you're not in a conference. Can you get in the playoffs with a loss against Northern Illinois? And you better hope that when you play Louisville, they're undefeated, and you better hope USC's undefeated, and you better hope you win both of those games.
And you better hope Florida State has some sort of
because guess what? I mean, there's not a lot of games left for you to prove your point, and things don't look good.
Yeah, and I don't know how the Catholics will take that at the end of the year if this is their only loss or USC is their second loss, and they have 2 losses and they have like 10 wins or whatever, and then all of a sudden, we're Notre Dame. And then the College Football Playoff Committee goes, we don't care.
Yeah, sorry.
You are out of here. And it's like, you know why it was? It was because of Northern Illinois came in, got paid $1.4 million to play this game, and then they get the big-time dub. Head coach of that team, do we remember the name? Tommy
I know he used to coach at Wisconsin, but I do not remember his name.
I loved his moxie.
Awesome.
I loved his post-game speech. He got emotional. I liked the way he talked to the team in the locker room. He's like, I told you guys we don't need luck. We didn't need luck. Thomas who? Hammock.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was in there. Thought he gave a great speech. Had the boys obviously ready. And I forget who brought it up, but somebody brought it up. That team, Northern Illinois, they've built their culture, you know? So they've built they are a team. This is like whenever you get to March Madness and you have some of these smaller teams and they've been around for a few years, this is our culture. And then whenever you talk about the transfer portal, you kind of bring some people in, they kind of reset your culture. It's like Northern Illinois should have been, in our eyes, maybe a look at. This team could potentially get somebody, especially with now that we know how the coach operates. But Notre Dame, after that Texas A&M win, going into that hostile environment, coming home, you would think they'd be able to handle business without Riley Leonard having to throw the ball. Instead, they don't at all. That's a big-time loss for that Notre Dame Fighting Irish team.
A huge letdown, and like I said, these good teams that'll go on and make the playoffs. Everyone's going to have letdown weeks. There's going to be trap weeks, but you end up winning the game somehow, just like Oregon did and Penn State did. The good teams find a way to win. But let's finish on a high note, maybe the highest of notes.
Okay.
Matt Rule has got those boys buzzing in Lincoln, Nebraska, 2-0 and in the top 25. They have found their quarterback and freshman Dylan Raiola, who has looked really, really good. His moxie is through the roof. And their defense, which was a top 10 defense last year, top 11 defense last year, if we're splitting hairs, looks like they are really, really good. Pick 6 coming from Shadur here. The D-line is unbelievable. They have a great secondary. Rule obviously knows how to coach them up on that defensive side. And I believe it was said in this office that they could potentially go 7-0 to start, and I think that could still be a situation. Now they got to host Illinois, who had a big win against Kansas at home. They got to go to Lincoln, and they got Rutgers as well in those first 7 weeks, but they'll be favored in all those games. But Nebraska looks like they could be the talk of the college football world this season.
And their environment is bananas. All the videos coming out of Nebraska this weekend were awesome. Will Compton had face paint on, was screaming on the Jumbotron. What a day he had. But if you think about the Nebraska fan base, they show up like an hour and a half before the game, pack the stadium out.
Yeah.
Always have. Even in the years they were right into the ground. I don't know how that works. I have no idea how that works with Scott Frost, how you can be a great coach somewhere.
It is weird.
And then you can go to somewhere that has everything you possibly need and be so terrible. I mean, they were so bad under his leadership, let alone before that. And then now Matt Rule comes in here in his second year, and Raiola, who's Nebraska royalty, comes and flips from Georgia to go to Nebraska. And it's like those fans have been waiting for this. They've been there, and now we got a championship fan base that's ready to go and seemingly a championship team. If they're going to get the bounces, too, that they got for that one touchdown where the ball hits like 2 guys and then he catches it and scores the touchdown. It's like if Nebraska's going to get the good bounces and they're going to have this freshman be seemingly a 25-year-old in the pocket and with his ability, don't look now. Nebraska could be the team with that black shirts defense that flies around and it's getting called out. I guess they're getting called out by sports media for what they said about the Colorado football team. It's like, is Nebraska the quiet? Because the Big Ten's going to have how many teams in the playoffs?
Well, after Iowa completely pooped the bed, I think it's safe to say they're not going to be in there anymore. But yeah, Nebraska,
3, 4 maybe, 3 or 4 teams.
And
if Nebraska gets a couple massive wins this season, which they
certainly could.
They have it.
They could go through. It's like, is Nebraska in the college football playoff this year? That's an insane thing to think of going into the year. But now watching them play, it's like sound. Obviously, Matt Rule is going to have like a technically sound defense.
Yep.
They got weapons. Raiola appears to be a guy. They have it all. And they have a stadium that is certainly going to assist every home game. It's like, I love the Cornhuskers.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't love them anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just as kind of a honorable mention here, because they've been in my mention a lot lately, not talking about Tennessee's a wagon so far to start this year. So just Nico's been unbelievable to start the year.
Yeah,
Iamala Eava.
Yeah,
he's filthy.
I'm not.
Iamale Ava.
I butchered it on.
With the
Friday,
hype, me too. I almost said it on game day when I was making the pick because I picked NC State as my super dog to cover. They did not. Just so we know, have that clear. NC State, I don't know what the hell's going on down there.
Yeah, they haven't looked great.
I love Tony Gibson. I love Coach Doran. They've been there a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know what that ACC seemingly this year gettable. If you don't look at Miami, in Miami, who knows what that's going to be for the rest of the year? They could be very, very elite in this entire thing for sure. But Boston College is like the second team we're talking about.
Look out. Look out.
Out of
That's a good
ACC.
team.
Clemson had a big win. They bounced back. Now.
Yeah, and Cade Klubnik,
Yeah.
what's he? I mean, there's like the ACC is a good spot.
Very
You
good
feel
one.
like NC State, especially with how their defense normally plays, could be in it. But instead, Nico Iamaleava just absolutely slices and dices like he's been able to do. That hypo offense, option routes for the wide receivers. If you have a quarterback that can spin it and read the defense, you're in a great spot over there.
Yeah, if they are on the same page, you can't be right as a defense, especially if you're accurate with the ball from the quarterback position. Speaking of that quarterback position, obviously you can have the resource, you can have the team. You got to hit on that quarterback position. Obviously, Nebraska, they hit with Dylan, bringing Dylan in, but we see what's going on with Florida State. We see what's going on early with Notre Dame.
State.
So even NC State. So even when you do hit that transfer portal, and it's not necessarily a guy you recruit out of high school, it can still be hit or miss. So you got to have that quarterback position. If you do, you got a chance.
Hey, good luck to all the teams. Keep it going. A lot of time left.
Hell yeah.
They're already saying a couple teams have no chance of making it in the college football playoff after a couple games. But hey, a lot of time left.
A lot of time left.
A lot of time left.
WVU, not one of those teams.
A lot of time.
Huge
We can still win the Big
bounce back.
12.
Hell yeah.